You lock me in your gaze, and try though I might, I cannot look away. You're not what I expected to find, and now I'm forgetting why I should run from your side. Yeah. One gentle kiss, the pain alleviates. Poisonous lips annihilate me, and every dream that I trade for this bliss. But who can resist? I'm starving alone in the wilderness. Beautiful distraction, keep me hypnotized, and I fall for the enemy. Powerless reaction, I am paralyzed, and now you get the best of me. Is the noble safe from your deceit and lies? I know I've been told this road isn't paved with gold, but I see it glitter now. I'm sold for the enemy. My hands are tied. You've captured your next slave, but it feels justified. I don't even try to break free.
Hey, Keith, good to see you.
To the truth at my side, that we
Hope all is well.
before we begin, if we stand and fight.
48 months, 4 years. Thank you so much.
Keep me hypnotized, and
It's weird to think that I've been streaming for 4 years, much less having someone subscribe for 4 years. Hey, Brad, good to see you.
We're going down. Yeah, we're going down. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down.
Much as I love this song, we're going to cut it down and get it going because we are already running late. Yeah. Seribot, thank you so much for the warning, but, I really need to time these ads better. Probably should have said it with the song for a little bit longer, but, it is what it is. Oh, I am good, Brad. I am good. It's, there's a little family stuff going on with, got some health issues with my mom, so keeping an eye on that and, hoping for the best. But, otherwise, it's the start of a new year. But yeah, Keith, you're right. It is weird to think that I've been streaming for 4 years or more, or however long it's been. Oh my goodness, Taryn, good to see you. I gotta figure out. I really need to get my Stream Deck going because I've forgotten completely what I have commands for these days. I do have one. There we go. Taryn, it is good to see you. Happy New Year. You're welcome, of course. Gotta make sure I have shout outs for the, one of the first people I got to know in the community, and one of the many people that I've met. 4 years, and I'm not even sure exactly how long, I have been streaming now. Obviously it's been at least 4 years, going by Keith's 48-month subscription. But man, I think of all that's happened in the last 6 years or so. Oh, thank you, Taryn. That's sweet of you. You are one of my favorite people too, and I'm so glad that we actually got the chance to hang out in person together for a little while. Hopefully, we'll get to do that again someday. Though, the current state of things is going to be a while, but whatever. Um, yeah, no, I reflect on all the things that have happened, and it's got to be, it's got to be. I'm trying to remember if it was 2021 or so when I started following Jay's stream. I don't remember if it was 2020 or 2020. It had to be 2021 or so, I think, because I think the pandemic was already. Well, no. Oh, goodness. I don't even know anymore. Time is weird, man. It's really weird. And then, of course, I spent a lot of time doing stuff for other people's channels and being everywhere except here. And, it finally took a lot of things happening kind of honestly out of my control for me to start paying attention to what I'm doing for myself instead of worrying about everybody else's stuff. Hey, Justinius, how's it going, Greg? I hope you're doing well. But we're here now, and there's a lot of there's a lot of people who are still with me. There are some people that are no longer here for one reason or another. But you do what you can do, and you stay with the people who stuck by you, and it's been a really really cool really really cool time. So me starting to get sentimental. It's we're only 1 week into January and I'm getting sentimental. It's like, what the hell? It's supposed to be the end of the year that you get sentimental, not the beginning of the year. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about, and it's weird because there's so many things going on. I mean, my goodness. I've got besides my Thursday streams, which amusingly enough, I'm mentioning that, and I'm going to be off like three out of the next 4 weeks due to some personal time and as well as Paige next week. So, there'll be no stream next week. There will be a stream the following week. Actually, let me verify that there's a stream the following. Yeah, no, there is a stream the following week, and then I'll be off for 2 weeks because taking some vacation time and going on a trip. But yeah, then Friday Night Crusades rolls on. We had, I just gave them the XP for I think it was session 28 or 29. I'm going back to Jamaica one more time. This time I'm going solo. They might think it kind of weird, but I have a lot of people that I want to say, if it turns out to be the last time, I want to make sure there's a lot of people I say a proper, proper goodbye to. So, no, not live from. I am not doing live from Jamaica. First of all, while they do have internet at the resort, it's not great. It would not. I've been able to occasionally catch a stream from there. Streaming from there just would not work at all. But yeah, no. Despite the fact that it's a couple resort and I am no longer part of a couple, I had already put a down payment on the trip, and I'm like, I could use 9 days of just relaxing and having drinks, and yeah, so I'm meeting solo. Who cares? I'm not. I have no shame. I'll sit there and eat by myself. No big deal. Plus, there's so many people there. I know it's like I'm not worried about it at all. I just want to go and relax in someplace warm, and just take some time. But yeah, it's so like I said, 3 out of the next 4 Thursdays I'll be gone. Next week is Paige, and Paige is shaping up. I'm getting more excited about Paige than I thought I would. I've already mentioned my issues with the whole way that whole thing is set up, but there's gonna be some great stuff there. And the fact that it's only 2 hours from me or so is great. I get to I found out I managed to sneak in. I was already in one of Jay's games. I think a Thursday night game, which is like the first day. I managed to jump on. Somebody dropped from his Friday game, and I jumped on that. And it's happened to be the game that the Slav Squad is playing in. So Bones and Darling Creepshow will be playing in that game, as well as Eric Mona, which is really cool because I got to find something for Eric to sign. I must have something that I'd want Eric to sign. Not that I'm the biggest person on collecting signatures, but what the hell? You have the chance, you take it. And you realize that that weekend I am playing in 3 separate games with Bones and Creep, and it is 3 different TTRPGs. I've got I've got a Shadow Dark game with Bones and Creep, which I believe the 2 games that Jay is not running. I believe Kurt Venedis is running both. So yeah, I'm playing Shadow Dark with Bones and Creep. I'm playing in Jay's game AD&D with Bones and Creep, and I am playing Cyberpunk Red, I believe it is, with Bones and Creep, which will be my first Cyberpunk experience, which is going to be really, really, really cool. I also get to play D&D in a live game. I've played with him. I've had the chance to play with him online, but I finally get to play a Carlos slicing game in person, which is going to be really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing Carlos because sadly Carlos will not be at GaryCon. That's normally where I see him, but it's also the games that I can never get into because they go so quickly. Yeah. So that's gonna be that's gonna be a fun time. We'll have a good time, and then be there through Sunday, and then Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so I've got off from work on that Monday, so I can come back Sunday, decompress, and enjoy a day off before getting back to the real world. In other news, before we get back to the topic at hand, because squirrel, we've got the fundraiser coming up. It's going to be the third week, St. Jude's charity fundraiser. It is going to be the third weekend in February. I know that Saturday, the 21st, I will be playing with the ever mysterious Tim and a host of others in our reverse dungeon group, where we were playing what used to be a group of goblins now, but we've morphed into something else thanks to a higher, darker power. But we're still leading a goblin tribe, and we'll be that'll be that Saturday. That Sunday, I just put the call because the should be the Righteous Hands. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Playing that Sunday. I am looking to run more games that weekend. Now, the Friday is normally a difficult one, so I'm maybe putting a call out to see, hey, Savage Splendor, 7 months of resubscription. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Looking to do a game that Friday, the 20th, during the daytime hours, because I'm taking off. I've got, work allows me to take a volunteer day, and I'm volunteering to, fundraise for the charity. Of course, the hardest part is finding players for that thing. So I'm going to be looking for people who are ready, willing, and able to play Friday during what would, for many people, and normally for myself, would be during the regular workday. Possibly in the morning, because sometimes it helps to have somebody to kick off the the first full day of the fundraiser, and I've done that in the past, and it's worked out. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the fundraisers, it basically it's Friday the 20th, February 20th through Sunday, February 22nd. I'm looking to play, run a game on Friday at least, and possibly Saturday afternoon, Saturday. I got to find out. I got to find out what Jay's planning on doing, if he's doing a special event for the Saturday evening, because there's no point in me running a game Saturday evening if if he's running a joust or a tournament or something like that, or if he's really on if he's running any game whatsoever. But we'll see what happens with that. Maybe I'll do something Saturday, possibly something Saturday afternoon leading into Saturday evening, because the reverse dungeon game is very early. Tim's got us waking up at, we're going to be playing starting at 8 a.m., which is brutal. I think that's Tim's way of keeping us from, being fully functional and ready to handle whatever he throws at us. But yeah, and I'm also hoping to have my first session of the Embers Empire campaign. I'm hoping to have it Sunday, January. It isn't a con, Justinius. This is the St. Jude's fundraiser that I'm talking about. Basically the third weekend in February. I did mention the fact that Page is next week, and I've got all kinds of things going on, though I'm not running any games at Page. I am just playing. I'm there as a player and to see people and probably end up spending lots of money on stuff that I don't need. Because I don't have anybody to play in person with yet. I'm buying all this terrain. I don't. Somebody make sense of it all, because I can't. Lord Forth, I'm there with you. Carlos is going to Page. I'm playing in his game at Page. Give me a moment. I can tell you when his game at Page is. Hey, Jay, good to see you. We are just talking about Page and the also the fundraiser. 29 months. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. So Carlos's game at Page, or at least the one that I'm playing in, attend my schedule. Is on Friday from 8 to 11. Yeah, well, don't worry about it. I'm running behind too. I think I started like close to 10 minutes late. So I feel that pain. We do have a giveaway going for a $10 coupon for Trollord Games towards any digital product. Something. I'm not gonna make it. Oh well. I just realized that I was going to do something, but I just realized that I didn't have enough time on it. So, I do a giveaway going for Trollord Games, $10 coupon towards any digital product off their website, and exclamation point ticket to enter. Yeah, it's good that he's going to Page. I'm glad. It'll get me my first chance to play in person with him. I did play with him this past virtual Greyhawk Con, in a session, which was awesome. I think it was like the only game that I played. Well, it's like, no, well, no, I played in a couple games. Virtual Greyhawk Con. I was all over the place. But yeah, so he'll be there. It's gonna be really cool. The name of the game is Get Zorath. Brett is playing in that game with me. That's gonna be cool. As a matter of fact, if anyone's going to Page and they have and that time slot is open, there is a seat available at that for that game. Yeah, Savage Splendor I was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm always busy at Virtual Greyhawk Con but normally it's like I'll run a few games and then basically spend the rest of the time playing or moderating. This Virtual Greyhawk Con, I came up with the brilliant idea to run what was it, 6, 7 games. I'm not even sure anymore. Yeah, it's the that weekend gives me life. That's all I can tell you. But if you're like I said, if you're going to Page, and you have nothing going on the Friday night, there is a spot for Carlos's game, Get Zorath. If you're interested, it is the description is Free Onwall has learned that a high-ranking Scarlet Brotherhood officer will soon be present at one of their most strategically vital depots within the occupied nation. It falls to you to see that the monster in the flesh of a man never leaves that fell place. World of Greyhawk Adventure for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1E characters, level 4 through 6. Nice. Oh man. So let's get back. Let's get to the subject at hand. I've dilly dallied enough. The whole squirrel. Any interesting thing? Just keep going. Tangents abound. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition. So I know I've talked about it. I started with 1E circa 1980, 81-ish or so. I couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 when my cousin introduced us to the game. And being very math inclined even at a young age, fantasy adventures with math didn't exactly was not it was something fascinating to me, that you could play a game that had so much going on. Hey, Touch of Evil, it is good to see you. Good evening. Thank you so much for dropping in. But yeah, it began a love affair with D&D that has been going on. Well, it's been going on for over 40 years now. I enjoyed 1E. It's always going to have a very, very warm spot in my heart for it. That's not to say they didn't have issues with it, even as a kid. For instance, I hated the Bard class. It was one of those things that I realized that it was hard to keep a group together. It was hard. There were times where, basically it'd be just my brother and I playing by ourselves. So you had this class that sounded really interesting, but unless we started them off at higher, started the group off at higher levels, and my brother and I would just create characters and I just run them through adventures or whatever, because I was 99 out of 100 times I was the DM, if not 100 out of 100 times. It having a character for that long and needing to do so much just to level it up to where you actually get to play the bard portion of it was not appealing, and it didn't make any sense with regards to the rest of the character class. I mean, I know people enjoy it, and I don't yuck anybody else's yum. It just wasn't for me. It was not. It felt really disjointed from the rest of the game for me. And then there was stuff like psionics. We kept toying with the idea of using psionics, and it just became a headache. It was like, even then it felt bolted on. But the base game endured, and loved it. Loved getting stuff, getting supplements for it. Loved getting modules. The artwork. The cover artwork for the first edition modules, especially when they went to the secondary style with the more the shinier artwork, and the change in format of the way they presented the advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Those covers really spoke to me, and the fact that they had the way the descriptive text on the back was, yeah, oh yeah. Well, and Paladin was my other problem, but we'll get to that in a moment. The covers, even to modules that I've really ended up not even never using. Like I've got Needle. I've had Needle, which is I think I11. I've had it for 40 years, 35 years, 40 years or whatever. I can't honestly tell you that I've ever run that module. I can't honestly tell you that I know what that module is about, but the cover art for it is fantastic, and it was there, and it was the one of the things that they had that I didn't already own, so I bought it because even back then, I was I had a paper out of my own. I made my own money, and I wasn't going to let anyone tell me what I could and couldn't do with that money. So yeah. Oh yeah, Dragger here. My friend. I've got enough modules for the both of us. Let's just put it that way. Oh man. I think I have most of the I series leading up to Egg of the Phoenix. I managed to snag a copy of Egg of the Phoenix later within the last couple of years, though it's missing. I think it's missing the maps, which I think I downloaded from Drive Through RPG or bought from Drive Through RPG, and I can just print those out. That's awesome, Saturn Splendor. I have a lot of them. First edition. Like I said, I have most of the I series, which I don't remember if Egg of the Phoenix is I12 or I14, but I've got most of those. I'm missing one of the 3 Desert or Desolation modules. That much I know. I'm not entirely sure what else I'm missing. I've got. I don't have them individually, but I've got the Queen of Spiders, which has the Kutoan modules, the Demon Web Pit modules, the Giant mod, the Giant series is in there. So I have all those. I've got the Scourge of the Slave Lords compilation. I've got the Temple of Elemental Evil compilation. Well, I mean, when I say compilation, it's basically Village of Hamlet, and then TT 2 through 4 are basically Temple of Elemental Evil. Ouch, that hurts. I also have Realm of Horrors, which has Tomb of Horrors, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, White Plume Mountain, and Lost Caverns of Sarjkanth. I have the Hidden Shrine of Tomoe-chan. I did pick up the Tharizdun module. What else do I have? I've got most of the WG series, which included again the Tharizdun module, Mordenkainen's Fantastic Adventure, Isle of the Ape, Castle Greyhawk, and the Lampoon of National Lampoon of version apparently. Which I'm not gonna lie, I get why people are pissed about it. I understand it. I wasn't quite aware of the politics of TSR back then because I had a few Dragon magazines here and there, but unless you were basically living in Lake Geneva, living or in that general area, or you were going to conventions, or you had a subscription. Hey, Mike, good to see you. I was blissfully unaware of all the things going on behind the scenes at TSR. So when Castle Greyhawk came out, my first reaction was, what the hell? And then a funny thing happened on the way to deciding we call it deciding to throw it in the garbage bin, and that was I was living in a frat house, and it's a lot of fun to play when you have a basic weekend and you are all drunk off your asses. That's right, WG7 Castle Greyhawk. Mike, I'm with you there. I still wish I was unaware of the business. There's a lot of things about that TSR and WotC that I wish I was blissfully unaware of, but these days, unfortunately, you can't help it. So it. Funny, we're supposed to be talking about 2E, and I'm going over all the 1E modules I have. And I've got the Secret of Bone Hill L1, as well as Assassin's Knot L2, which is one of the first modules I ever owned. So yeah, I've got a lot of 1E modules. I've got a whole bunch of them. Anyways, then Unearthed Arcana came out. And I have a love-hate relationship with our Unearthed Arcana. There are so many things in there that I like in theory. Like, I love the idea of a Cavalier. I hated the fact that they made the Cavalier the main class and then moved the Paladin into it as a subclass. I think that was around the time that I said screw the. That might have been around the time that I said screw the class stat limits, because unless you left the Paladin under the fighter, I mean, the Paladin was hard enough because you needed, if you were basically rolling dice honestly, and if you got maybe 117 or 118 in your, and even back then I was doing 46, drop the lowest. I don't know if I added reroll ones back then yet. It might have just been 46, drop the lowest. If you had only 117, 18, and you want to play Paladin, that was your charisma stat. So the rest of it could suck, or at least not be very effective, but you needed that one stat. And you still needed a third, even with the even with before the move to under Cavalier, you still needed a 13 wisdom as well. So there was a good chance that you might have a character with a Paladin with a great charisma, a decent wisdom, who couldn't hit the blind side of a barn because you had no stat bonuses. They were not effective in it dragged here. And that was the other pain, because of the fact that probably the only reason that it didn't become an extreme issue for me was because of the fact that I was DMing all the time. So the first Paladin I had was, the first Paladin that I really had that I could call my own was partially a DM PC that I was using in second edition at the frat house for the campaign. And then, for a little while anyway, we were switching off DMs after a while, and I would use him as my PC. And hey, History Prof, good to see you. But yeah, because once you move the Paladin under the Cavalier, suddenly, in addition to the 17 charisma and the 13 wisdom, if you were using stat minimums, you needed a 15 in strength, dexterity, and constitution. What? Like, come on. I mean, just really, come on. Hey, Bill, great to see you. Let me see. I forgot if I have anything. But yeah, so it was painful. It was really, really painful. I did like the Barbarian. I one of my favorite characters that I used as basically an NPC/DMPC when it would be like just me and my brother was a Barbarian. And I think they went overboard with the anti-magic stuff, and I toned that down greatly. Yeah, it's gonna be. We were talking about that a little earlier, Bill. It's gonna be a fun time. I don't know if you heard. I managed to slip into another one of Jay's games. I managed to get into these. I'm playing in the Thursday night game, I think it is, or sometime on Thursday, and then I managed to sneak into the Slav Squad game. TSR, thank you for your money, History Prophet. That's kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. That is kind of funny. Um, but yeah, I like the barbarian, even though it was a little too heavy on the antimatter. I had to tone that down a bit because the idea that you could not have a barbarian and a wizard in the same party, what are you doing? I mean, how does that work? When you have to have a second separate party just to be able to play a barbarian character, because it can't have a wizard, is just doesn't work for me. And it was things like that. I mean, the bard in the bard starting off, kind of threw me for a loop, but oh, that's awesome. Paladin, thief, barbarian, wizard. That's like a dual classing fu, Mike. Actually, I don't even think can you even be a thief, paladin? What do you call it? There's an alignment check for that. No, I didn't think you could have no. I don't think you can have a lawful good thief in first edition. There we go. And history probably, yeah, we're going to get to that as well. Would use this wizard's spellbook as toilet paper. That is kind of funny. I mean, there was a thief acrobat, which was interesting, but kind of. I don't know that anyone ever. That would have been great. It's another one of those classes that I think would have been great for a city adventure. I don't think it worked, generally speaking. Um, Touch of Evil. It's hard to say. You got to remember something. Back then, there was no there. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were in the know, if you were going to conventions regularly or somehow part of a larger community, you probably had a better feel for it, or at least locally speaking. But back then, when second edition came out, um, dial up was basically local BBS, and then you were just getting to the age of like Prodigy and CompuServe and that come out. But who could afford those? I mean, bulletin board systems were probably a better bet for finding people like that. Especially if they had Usenet access for as far as like forums and discussions. So again, our Unearth Arcana really shook my concept of okay, I'm not taking for granted that anything that is being written in these books is necessarily worth putting in, because some of these things are strong. And I joke with Jay about comeliness because I know he's mentioned more than once that how many people in his games love comeliness. Comeliness was a useless stat for me from the beginning. It hasn't changed. I mean, it's fun now. To me, it's still kind of a joke. It's like, okay, you've got your comeliness and this and that, and who's prettier than who or whatever. It's a fluff stat. And it'd be great if you weren't rolling for it. I mean and therein lies the issue. When you're basically rolling stats, if you're not doing, God help you if you're doing, rolling down the line. But if you're rolling a whole bunch of stats and you've got to decide, well, do I want my character to actually be, look good? and I got to use one of my better rolls for that. No. And not only that, you know, there's a reason why the term beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because it's true. Your idea of a perfect 18 is not mine. You know, the way people look at other people, it is, you know, it's completely different. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't work. So, this is the 2E thing where we never actually get to 2E. You gotta love it. So anyway, Christopher Pop, you mentioned before about Wilderness and Dungeoneer Survival Guide. So when the Dungeoneer Survival Guide came out, I thought it was kind of cool at first. I liked that it had some more specific stuff for dealing with dungeon crawls and being in the you know, being down below, and you know, some of the stuff that went with it, because that was stuff that I found useful. The Wilderness Survival Guide to me was pure fluff, and I'm like, okay, they've run it out of it was lots of stuff that really didn't need to be in a book. Just, you know, it's, I don't know. I felt like I was. It was kind of weird because when Wilderness Survival Guide came out, I could not have been more than 14, 15 when Wilderness Survival Guide came out. And man, I think I was probably 15 when it came out. I was already jaded. It's like, I'm too young to be jaded. I mean, you know, we're still in high school, man. You know, so 2E comes out, and Curtis, good to see you, my friend. You know, 2E comes out, and I was ready. I was, you know, after the Wilderness Survival Guide had come out, I was like, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for them to do a reset. I was ready for the reset and to see what happens. And I was in love from the start. I'm not sure how long it took for me to be able to switch over. In terms of like changing my things rules, and you know, since we're talking about it, let's bring up the let's bring up that lovely player's handbook. Like, I love that. I love that artwork. I like that they kept the cool full color, bright change to it. The heavy blue in the thing threw me at first. The use of blue, but you know, it worked. Honestly, my one complaint with 2E at the start was the fact that the illusionist class was gone as a class of its own. Because I do think it lost something when it became just another specialization. That being said, having specialized, having, you know, being able to specialize in a type of, in a school of magic, I thought that was really cool. I thought the, you know, I thought the having the change to priests where, you know, having them being specialized or specific to different deities expanded on something that I already thought should have been clear in the first place. You know, good Catholic school kid that I was, is like, you know, how do you have a priest that doesn't specifically have a god or gods? And the idea that you could be dedicated to one versus an all-purpose where you probably were just more having the entire pantheon and didn't specialize. I thought that was cool. And oh my God, I just realized something. That's what I need to do. I love when I read this stuff and I realize what I've been doing wrong. I need to go and start making. I need to go back and really get going with the specialty priests of the different Greyhawk deities, because I want to make it so that if you're a cleric, you're not specialized in a specific deity. You're just worshiper of the pantheon. You are taking power to whoever might be listening. Yeah, so I will say I appreciate what they tried to do with the Monstrous Compendium, but binders and having pages that easily tore, especially at the binder, especially where the hole punch was a pain. And I still have my binders, or I still have my binder. The main binder itself, it no longer snaps close. I did put all the extra books. The binder itself still has all the pages for Monstrous Compendium 1 and 2. Then I've got separate small binders for like one for the Greyhawk stuff, one for the Ravenloft stuff, the Spelljammer stuff. But yeah, let's go a little further. I mean, so you've got priests of a specific mythoi, as they put it. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be mythoi or if that's supposed to be mythos. Clerical domains or priestly domains is now a thing, which I thought was cool. Suddenly, the warrior you've got the warrior with the subclass of fighter, paladin, and ranger. So back to that. Yay. You now have the rogue with the as far as like the thief and bard subclasses. And the changes or whatever they did for multi and dual classing. Thieves rogues ranging their thief ability scores with base plus percentage spread. I had forgotten about that. I hadn't looked at the 2E thief in a long time. I need to go back and check on some of that stuff. But yeah, it was clean. It was redone. The Cavalier was gone. Cavalier, honestly, what is a Cavalier except a very expensive fighter? It's a fighter with money. That's all it is. A lot of money. A lot of money and a noble title. That's that, or maybe even a noble title and no money, possibly. The only thing that they own is their name and title and the armor on their back. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and it got better. That's the thing. It got better where the I like that. I think you should be able to have some differentiation. I mean, have the same skills, but be better at some things than others. You don't have everybody be at the exact same level, plus or minus their dexterity bonus or whatever, whatever they were using as modifiers for 1A. So, and I love more artwork. That's awesome. One, your first dragon kill. Very small dragon, but still a dragon kill. And then, you've got the Tome of Magic. I was a little trepidation when the Tome of Magic came out because, again, I had Unearthed Arcana still in my brain, and I was waiting to see what happened here. And basically, it literally is just an expansion on magic. Now, I will admit that I tried using wild magic in my campaign. I wasn't crazy about it, mostly because of the fact that, with the exception of one person, a late friend of mine who was was the chaotic neutral player. He was the guy you knew who was going to play chaotic neutral. To be an agent, basically be an agent of chaos. So, I'm curious, Savage. What was it that you hated about the Wormling painting? Was it the fact that it was such a small dragon, or is it the art style, or what was it that you hated about it? But yeah, so wild mages and wild magic, it became a little bit of a headache because again, it usually was the people who like to play the agent of chaos characters. The chaotic neutral guy, Mr. Chaotic Neutral, who liked playing wild mages, and it got to be a bit much on that end. If I went back to 2E, I probably would allow it, mostly because now everybody is, is a little more sensitive to not being that person. So, it could probably be a bit more fun. I didn't enjoy, back then, honestly, I did not enjoy it at all. And, one of these days I will get my camera to stay focused on me instead of like off to the side. I don't know what that's about. But again, the fact that it is it's an optional system. It's not something that you have to use. It's something that you can have if you want it. There we go. All right, cool. It's fine. I didn't mind its presence. It was something cool. It was something different. But it did not change how wizards worked. Yeah, I mean, the whole having 100 different wild surge results is, yeah, you don't need wild mages to have chaotic neutral wild mages. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. I look at wild mages, especially with the wild surges aspect of it, kind of like I do the deck of many things. Why do you want to do that to yourself? It's just there's so many things that can happen that can really just screw with what would be a good time, and it's 100% RNG and stuff like that. It was not. I was not not really a fan. Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine who sadly passed away a couple years. One of my fraternity brothers. He loved to play the chaotic neutral character. He didn't get to play with us quite as often. Hey, brother Phantom, good to see you, sir. But yeah, his characters were all the chaotic neutral type. Wild mages should all wear some, as Eric Mona would say, Ralashaz. I do like elemental wizards. Elemental wizards, I enjoyed elemental wizards then. I enjoy elemental wizards now. I enjoy playing my elementalist in Jay's campaign. I like it so much that I've brought over elemental wizards to my CNC game. We've got fire elementalists. Asher the Bear plays a fire elementalist in my Friday Night Crusades game, and I am ready to unleash that on the main campaign. I've got I need to figure out the rest of the spells for the Earth Elementalist, but I want to bring that over as well. That's going to be the next one. Air and Earth might take a little bit longer. I mean, no, not Earth. Air and water might take a little bit longer. But I need to do that. But yeah, I mean, so that's cool. I never really used the quest spell for priests, mostly because of the fact that it was something that I was already implementing anyway. I didn't. It was cool that they were putting kind of stuff in there. It helped like flesh some stuff out for me, but I already did those kind of things. But I do like the fact that they added a few some new spheres. Um, I like that the fact that they added new spells. There was a lot of new spells. Look at that. I mean, the fact that just first level alone there is what, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine new first level spells for wizards. And there are lots of different options. My prime stat for my elementals remains intelligence. However, in Castles and Crusades, you do not get the bonus spells for high intelligence the way you do as a standard wizard in CNC. What I do instead is, as a elementalist, you're going to get bonus elemental spells. So it would have been kind of like doubling up on it. You're gonna get bonus spells anyway, as long as they're elemental spells. So yeah, that's it stays intelligence, but it does not affect how many cantrips first and second level spells you have. Was it first, second, and third level? I think. Anyway, yeah. And then of course they did have, uh, you know, new magical items, which is always cool. Just like looking at wands of corridors, wand of misplaced objects, wand of prime material pocket. Just cool stuff. Adding more on top of it without changing the base game. This is something that 2E. Honestly, 2E was really, for me, was probably the best at it. One E, again, they changed too many things with. Well, 2E was fun. 2E was great with it until they did 2.5, the black covered books that came later. And I realized that they did players options and whatever they were called, in addition, but they still, in the base game, there was still stuff that changed, and I was not happy about that. So I never went to the expanded stuff. I might have stolen some stuff from players options, to backport, but yeah, no, we didn't go that far. And then on top of all this, we had there's the brown, um, blue gray, and the green books, the splat books. And again, more details, more stuff to help flesh out a character. I know some people had issues, and there was occasionally kits that were a bit much. For the most part, I thought the kits were really good at helping give a feel to the character. If for those who needed some help in that respect, I didn't think they were terrible in terms of, the uh, making them OP or anything. There are a couple that needed to be somewhat slimmed down, but it was never something. It was never something so egregious saying, "Okay, this is so bad it can't be fixed," without just completely neutering it. And again, it was all, it was all completely optional. And for each of these, my players, when we started playing at the frat house, they were allowed to use kits. I had all the books, so we went through, and they tell me what they wanted to use, and I looked to make sure that it wasn't anything overly nuts. We go through it, but I like the fact that these books were great for detailing about the classes, giving more background on the class. They were very useful for people who were new to playing a particular class and needed to get a feel for what the class was about, how it was supposed to work. Um, yeah, Weapon speed is one of those things, Curse, that I loved in theory. Unfortunately, we ended up abandoning it because it got to be a little. I think at one point for 2E we went to everything being simultaneous action. So everything would go out. You players would do their stuff. We'd roll initiative. Players would do their things. The mobs would do their things, and then we'd figure out who lived or died at the end, if anyone did. But one of the things that I miss, and hey, Kern, good to see you. One of the things I miss from 1E and 2E that is non-existent in Castle and Crusades, and actually, I think it's non-existent, if I remember correctly, it's non-existent in 5E as well. I don't know when it stopped. I think it stopped in 3. Weapon damage versus small / medium versus weapon damage against large. Yeah, no, and I get that. I can tell you that we kept weapon speed with small groups. Weapon speed, we did it a lot more than we did once we started running large groups. And my frat house groups were huge. I mean, I regularly had 7 to 8 players sitting around the frat table. I had as many as 10 at one point, and some of the people were playing multiple characters. It was a raiding. It wasn't so much an adventuring group as it was a raiding party. The damage, the weapons against armor type was something that we abandoned very, very quickly, because even in first edition, even with the charts and tables, it was a hell of a headache. I wish I could remember what we did for initiative at the frat house. Again, for some reason I want to say that we ended up settling on everything being resolved. Going through and everything being resolved at the end as far as whether or not anybody was down and such. But I could be wrong about that. But weapon speed helped for like small groups, especially with individual initiative, or even if you were rolling group initiative, you just decide on your weapon speed, in order who goes first, especially with us casting times. I had a love and hate affair with Thaco. I was always good at math, so Thaco never really bothered me from that end. My real only problem was it felt so unnecessary to me. So when I found out they were starting to do ascending ACs, it was fine. But yeah, there's so much good stuff in these books. So much stuff both from a player perspective, from a dungeon master perspective. Savage Splendor. That's kind of it. Yeah, it wasn't until that I first played my first game without descending armor class that I realized how much I really disliked this descending armor class, and descending AC was just, it made so much more sense. And I didn't have, I was not a war gamer, member of the war gamer movement, so I didn't have that to fall back on as a reason why I love this. So, negative ACs as a good thing, or something that was just something I grew up using because it was what AD&D did. They do, yep, they do. But I miss I loved for first and second edition, the differentiation between damage for a weapon for damage versus small, medium, and damage versus large, because that, along with weapon speed, made the different weapons more valuable or more useful or more of a choice. I've made the argument that there comes a point where you might as well have, for the larger for the games where you're only having one one damage thing, especially if you no longer care about bludgeoning versus piercing versus slashing damage. You might as well just say sword small, sword medium, sword large / two-handed. And they're all 1d6, 1d8, or 1d10, and 1d12, or whatever, however you want to do it. And then you just give the list of different types of swords in it, so that for flavor purposes people can have it whatever, because there was no there's no mechanical difference between them. And you're looking at a weapon list that has like 30 weapons. For what? Why would you ever take a weapon that is 1d8 when you can have a weapon that does 2d4 damage? Some people made the argument, well, most magical weapons are going to be the other type. If your DM hates you so much that he won't give you a magical weapon in your weapon type, and constantly taunts you with the other weapon, your DM's an ass. Just saying. Just rolls better in the hand. Oh, Kurt. Yeah, okay. Hey, Kurt, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. I'm playing in 2 games you're running. I'm in that Shadow Dark game, and I'm in the Cyberpunk game. I mean, Thaco didn't bother me because I was good at math, and it was easy enough. I could do the math in my head trivially. It's just it just why it was extra math for no discernible purpose, honestly, other than, hey, that's the way we did it. I'm sure there's an article somewhere where they tell you why they did Descending AC, and I'm assuming it goes back to the whole wargaming thing that AD&D grew out of, but never really got why. But yeah, I loved these books. I've got all of them, and I hang on to them for dear life. But then finally, you had the blue books, which were specifically for the DMs, and there were some good ones. There was the campaign source and catacomb guide. Which, why does this thing look like it's so small? Whoop. They should all be the same size on screen. There we go. All right. Tower Guy, 2 months out. Sending out a DM message, DM message out this weekend. All right, awesome. Wait, is Tower Gygax taking place in Ravenloft? Because that'll be a lot of fun. oh, please set me loose in Ravenloft. I appreciate that, Curtis. That is cool, Kurt. That is awesome. But yeah, I mean, the wealth of information that these books had, in terms of, some of it was great just for running the game. Some of it was source material specifically for different styles of game. And again, it was books that were completely utterly optional, but in a way that, I mean, honestly, the problem with the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide being completely optional is you're missing a whole lot of non-weapon proficiencies things if you don't have those. So they were kind of sort of not really optional. These were a different matter though. Different dungeon types, which I think is really cool, and you can tell how useful these are in the fact that so many places they still make these types of books today. I mean, Troll Lord Games, sponsor of this channel, makers of Castles and Crusades, Amazing Adventures, and other fine products, came out with books engineering dungeons, engineering castles, engineering was it engineering villages or cities? I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, source material for this kind of stuff, it keeps happening over and over because these books were great for helping flesh out your campaign, helping flesh out the different types of adventures your characters might be going on. And it was useful source material, generic source material for a DM to use. So, with all that in mind, the one thing that I haven't even gotten to yet was the fact that, and I understand there are people who will be the Gygax vision of it forever, but Greyhawk, there was a lot of Greyhawk material printed in second edition. I know because I own all of it. Between the City of Greyhawk box set came out. I don't remember exactly. We've had this discussion before. Came out. I think it was late 1E or mid 1E. But you had Greyhawk Wars to help change things up. Then From the Ashes, but then you had all the source stuff, the Marklands, which I use religiously for my Niron-based campaign. You've got I Use the Evil, the Scarlet Brotherhood, all this great source material for the Greyhawk setting, and help again really reinforce it as my favorite setting. Then they took Ravenloft and they said, okay, instead of just getting trapped in Barovia, well, now you've got all these domains of dread. And I went to town on that. Ravenloft is still my second. The Ravenloft domains are still my second favorite campaign setting. I've run adventures in probably 7 or 8 of the different domains during my 2 years. I loved the novels that they came out with for them. I thought the paperback novels for them were great. Really fleshed out Strahd, Aslan, even Lord South. The following on the story of him ending up with his own domain. All kinds of good stuff in Ravenloft, and adding spooky adventures. Gothic horror adventures, whatever, for D&D. And then finally, for me anyway, I realized that there was other stuff. There was Planescape, there was Dark Sun. Dark Sun, never liked Dark Sun. It was never for me. It was never going to appeal to me. It was felt too much edgelord type gaming for me. It was like, this is not the kind of bleak game I want to run. But Spelljammer, where you had elves having basically an elven imperial navy with multiple ship types, I thought was pretty freaking cool. You had the different crystal spheres, the idea of being able to go from one of the campaign worlds to another, the adventures in space, all the different ship types, the fact that it was magic bound and not technology bound really appealed to me. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with Spelljammer. Spelljammer allowed me to do naval style games in a way that I never could just basically in on regular ships on in the water. Mostly because of the fact that nobody wanted to be fighting on the water for very long, where they couldn't wear their plate armor because they probably drown. I never looked into Birthright. Never looked into Mystara. Never looked into any of any of those things. I had brief dalliance with Forgotten Realms. A friend of mine was one of my buddies in high school was really big into Forgotten Realms, and they were all they were hoping that we'd eventually have characters high enough level to do the Bloodstone modules, which were ridiculous. The ridiculously high level. We never got there. I like the Moonshae Isles. That the whole Celtic vibe of the Moonshae Isles really appealed to me, but I ended up enjoying the novels more than I did for the Forgotten Realms, more than I did the realms themselves as a campaign setting. The fact that the novels kept changing, they kept changing the campaign setting to follow along with what's going with the modules was also rough, and there were too many high level NPCs running around doing everything, and it was kind of like you're just there helping them. It's not your, player characters were not the focus. Never felt that way. But it is what it is. I've got I had my 3 campaign settings that I loved, and plus whatever generic homebrew stuff I was doing. But 2E, 2E was a love that endured. We were playing it in high school by the time I graduated. I think it came out in '89. I graduated in '90, so we were probably playing it for about 6 or 7 months. I remember when Fate of Istis came out, and it was the module where, as you went through the module, you start off at first edition, and maybe wait in a second edition. I appreciate them trying to do it. It didn't work out really as well as it could, but again, there was a lot of useful stuff from Fate of Istis just from a campaign setting, because for better or worse, it had a whole bunch of cities. Hey, Varby Gem, good to see you. But yeah, it from 1989-ish, in the 2000s, I didn't get into 3 at all because I was married, didn't have much time. We were getting together once, sometimes it might have been once a year, maybe twice a year if we were lucky, to play some D&D, but we stayed 2E because that was what we knew, that's what we had. And when my buddy got the gang back together from the fraternity house, next thing you know, we were playing 4E because that's what he had taught his kids. His kids enjoyed it, and the kids were playing with us. Now his kids were just short of teenagers. I think they were. No, they might have already been teenagers at the time, or were just hitting that age. So that's what they enjoyed. So we tried it, and that was finally the end of 2E for me. Suddenly, some 14 years later, I find myself wanting to go back to 2E. I enjoy Castles and Crusades. I love it because it's easy to teach people. It's easy to port all of my AD&D stuff to it. But there are times when I look longingly and say, well, if I was running 2E, I wouldn't have to do this. But at the same time, that going back to 2E would introduce a host of all other problems. And so for now, we're sticking with CNC. And I'll just keep bringing stuff over. But yeah, I again, it's a love endure that, it's a love affair that's endured for, 36 years now. And that's the way, honestly, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. I am very careful in my Greyhawk games to never have any of the big names steal the thunder. I had when I was running AD&D, when I was not running AD&D, when I was running Greyhawk in 5e, a 5e campaign, my girlfriend at the time was playing a wizard who was a follower of Rory before the events of Rory the Traitor. And so we were doing a 576 base campaign, or 579 or whatever it was. And she got to meet Rory, and she got to meet Mordenkainen as well. And there was, there was a little interaction just so because it made for some great flavor stuff, and because even though she was not a big Greyhawk, she didn't know a hell of a lot about Greyhawk. She knew Mordenkainen, so Mordenkainen was already a big name, and so it made for some fun. She also got to meet Bigby as well, because Bigby and Mordenkainen, thick as thieves, but they were never. They might be quest givers, they might be advisors, but they were not going to show up and save the day. It was as simple as that. They had their own stuff to deal with. Come and see them when you can. All right, we got a late start, but we've been going for close to, maybe an hour and 20 minutes or so. And I do believe, I'm pretty sure Jay's been going on for a while now. So we are going to get ready to raid into Jay. We do have a giveaway, and I got to find Tux. I was hoping it'd show up tonight because I didn't have they've already done the adventures. The adventures are after. It's one way to look at it. Or they know the things that the player or the characters might be interested in. They know where the bodies are buried. I'm not saying that they buried those bodies, but I'm not saying they didn't either. I do have this month's allotment, so let's get the giveaway going, or let's not give it going. It's already going. Exclamation point ticket to enter. $10 gift card towards Troll Lord Games. Oh, they buried those bodies. It's very. So listen, especially when they're old wizards, you never know what they did when they were young. No, you would think that they would have thought to have taken anything interesting with them. All right, I'm going to be closing out the giveaway in a few seconds. Going to go to stream ending, and we'll get ready to raid Jay. Friday Night Crusades continues tomorrow night in the Discord at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We are on session, I think this is session 30. Let me double check. Yes, tomorrow night will be session 30 of the new Castle and Crusades campaign. Saturday morning, I will be on JStream at 11 o'clock Eastern. I believe I am playing GOM again, so we will have fun. All right, let's closing out the giveaway now. And drawing a winner. Savage Splendor. Awesome. All right, I will get that to you right afterwards. Everybody hang in there for the raid and use the raid emotes if you got them. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Thank you, Lord Gazumba, Savage Splendor, Keith, Roger, for the subscriptions. Thank you, everyone who chatted, lurked, whatever. It's great to have you all here, and I really appreciate it. We are raiding into Lord Gazumba in 3, 2, 1. See you on the flip side.